Okay, so this is a little impromptu video. I got a notification on my phone today that it was 4 years since the midnight screening of Infinity War, which it's hard to believe it's been 4 years already. So I just wanted to make a quick video reminiscing because the 25th of April 2018, it was quite an eventful day, really, because I worked for Tesco at the time, and I had received an award, Gold Service Superstar. Granted, it was a very slow year. It was a very quiet year. There wasn't, so it wasn't really any kind of great achievement. I got in, there wasn't a lot of competition. But we had this wonderful event at Redworth Hall, and obviously got to go to that and had like an afternoon tea ceremony. And then there was a further vote of the winners of the Gold Service Superstar Award, who would be the winner in the next category. And wouldn't you know, I ended up winning that again. There may well have been a miscount in the votes. And also, I think something that should be stated here, it's an award that you can only win once. So people who'd won previously can't win it again. So basically, I don't know if it says a lot, but again, we are where we are. But it was a wonderful day, so I win this wonderful award. Again, it can be disputed whether I was a deserving winner, but there were a lot of people more deserving than I am, but we are where we are. So we had this wonderful event, and it was really nice, and obviously we have this wonderful afternoon tea, and Redworth Hall's a beautiful place, but I'm all the time in the back of my head, I'm smiling and trying not to be awkward, which is quite an achievement for me. I say an achievement, I had varying degrees of success, because all these social gatherings and soirees, well, I feel like I feel out of place, but I always feel out of place. But I'm just trying not to be too weird and awkward and trying not to bump into anyone. But all the time I'm thinking, as I'm going through the afternoon tea, and I'm thinking, man, I just want to get home because I'm going to the midnight screening of Infinity War. I just want to get there. I mean, this is nice, I really appreciate it, but come on, man, the main event. So obviously, finally get home, and things had worked out well, because originally I was supposed to be on the late shift on that night. I think it was a Wednesday, and for either a Wednesday or a Thursday, but things had obviously been altered because of me going to this event, so I was able to get straight home and just start getting ready. And obviously, the picture I've used in this is a picture I took literally before hours before like maybe an hour or so before I left, because I got this wonderful Spider-Man hoodie, obviously based on the Tom Holland Civil War / No Way Home suit. So got that on, got geared up, and set off for the showcase. And what a night. Obviously the only thing was, the showcase in recent years at Teesside Parks had a refurb, and it's breathed a whole new lease of life into the place. But obviously at the time, it was still much as it was when it first opened back in '93. But again, that's alright, because I'm nostalgic. I love the '90s so very much. So I did it had that retro feel. And I'm like, oh man, am I going in to see the new Avengers movie, or am I going to see the '95 Mortal Kombat movie? A side note, there was a Halloween a few years back where I got to go to the showcase before, for a special screening of Perfect Blue. And that was the first time I'd ever seen that movie, and oh man, that was an experience. That was great. But yeah, obviously going to see Infinity War on the midnight screening, man, the excitement. And again, nothing could have prepared me, because obviously we're sat there, we're excited, we're watching the trailers and the commercials and the previews, and then obviously the lights go down, and then the Marvel logo starts, and usually you get the bombastic fanfare. Not this time though, it's just stone cold silence, and you should have been there to feel the atmosphere in that theatre, because I tell you what, the whole atmosphere and mood just changed. And then you get the drone in of Alan Silvestri's score, and it's very ominous, and like, oh, hang on a minute here. And then obviously we go in, and we have obviously the opening proclamation from Ebony Moore, and already you're getting chills and goosebumps, and like, oh. But one thing that immediately struck me was, obviously, because this is it's nigh on 2.5 hours, this movie, but man, it doesn't waste any time getting into it. And one of the things still to this day, I can't get over how Infinity War, it moves like a bullet. It doesn't let up. I mean, maybe there's that halfway point when obviously the stuff with Thanos and Gamora on his ship, where it starts to breathe. It's the first time in the movie where you feel as though it's taking a breath. But aside from that, man, this thing moves. And just, I couldn't believe what I was watching. You know, obviously things can't happen so fast. You have the destruction of the Asgardian ship, Hulk lands in the Sanctum, and then obviously, you know, then Tony Stark's there, and then obviously the invasion of New York. And one thing that always sticks in my mind, when we follow, it's kind of done as almost like a one shot, where the camera follows Tony, the Good Doctor, Wong, and obviously Banner out into the street, and obviously it's chaos stations. But there's that moment as they turn the corner and walk out to where the ship is above the city, and obviously you've got Ebony Moore and it's Corvus, is it Cull Obsidian? But it's this wonderful handheld shot, and it feels almost like a documentary, you know, something you'd see in a documentary. And you've got that constant humming of the ship, and it's, you know, it's great. And I'm thinking, man, this is something special. And then as things are ramping up, and then obviously it cuts to, you know, you've got the standoff, and then obviously it cuts to Peter Parker on the bus, and then obviously just everything just kicks off, and the battle in and of itself in New York, the scale of that is like what would be the finale in any other Marvel movie. And that's just the opening, that's just the starter course. It's the appetizer. But then obviously just the momentum, and obviously Alan Silvestri's score in Infinity War. A lot of people have talked about how good his score is in Endgame, but I don't think Infinity War gets the recognition it deserves in terms of how good the music is in this one, because it has such a punch to it. And obviously it drives the movie, because obviously you've got this constant energy and momentum. And obviously, you know, when we see the ship going up into space after Strange and Spider-Man have been beamed up, and you've got Spider-Man on the outside and he's climbing up the ship, and you've got just the drum beat of Alan Silvestri's score, and then obviously you get the Iron Spider suit pod launched from the Avengers compound. It's so good. But honestly, this film, for me, is the crown jewel in the superhero genre. I still think it's the best superhero movie I've ever seen. It's one of the greatest. I genuinely, I mean, I know a lot of people turn their nose up or roll their eyes when they hear about the Marvel movies, but I really think Infinity War is something special. And I do genuinely count it as among one of the greatest films I've ever seen. And again, Robert Downey Jr. in this one, because I love him as Tony Stark, he's always been great, but there's something special about his performance here. And I know there was that whole thing of, should he have got an Oscar nomination for Endgame? I think he would have been more deserving of the Oscar nomination for this one, because there's that moment in the Sanctum when you see the switch flick, he's like, "This is it," and you see, and then obviously, what's our time frame? And the cogs are turning because it obviously the vision he had or was given way back in Age of Ultron. It's like it's far, all the paranoia, the years, the panic attack that in Iron Man 3, it's all been leading to this. Yeah, there's just something special about Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, and also in going hand in hand, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda in this. Oh my god! And obviously the whole sequence in Edinburgh, which was great because I love Edinburgh, so getting to see that. We're going to Edinburgh next month, and that's I think it's a Mediterranean restaurant, but you know where Liz Olsen gets thrown through that window. We're going to make a point to stop off there and have something, because that'd be so cool. And then obviously that leads into obviously Waverley Station, and then obviously boom, Cap shows up with reinforcements. And again, interesting thing about Cap, I really like him in this movie, but obviously he's used very sparingly, and that's one of the things about this film, because it's so tight and there's very little in the way of padding. Everything serves a purpose. It's all about utility. The characters are used in a very utilitarian way, like Cap and Black Widow. They're not in it a lot, but when they are in it, they have impact, and they don't have a lot of lines, but the dialogue has utility. But honestly, this movie is really, really something special. And obviously, Thanos, this is a guy that's been building up for 10 years almost, and they do deliver with the way they portray him in Infinity War. Such a wonderfully realised character. And then obviously Ebony Maw, as one of the Black Order. What a great, because obviously you think, well, Thanos is this. How do you top Thanos? Surely everyone else is gonna, on the villain side, is gonna pale in comparison. But Ebony Maw really, really stands out as well, which is a hell of an achievement when you've got Thanos there more often than not in the same scenes. But yeah, honestly, it's just. I really think this is a film. This film is an example of capturing lightning in a bottle. And it's an example of all of the parts working and functioning perfectly, and everything just firing on all cylinders. It is a wonderful achievement. Obviously, phenomenal performances all round, but I think special mention must be given to Robert Downey Jr. and Elizabeth Olsen. That whole sequence, obviously, the sequence on Titan, the fight between Tony Stark and Thanos. And I genuinely thought Tony was going to die in this one. So that moment when he gets stabbed, obviously you can see the nanotech wearing away because he's using the last of it up, and he's having to make parts of him vulnerable so he can just fire repulsor blasts on Thanos. But you see it, and then obviously he's literally flinging everything at Thanos, and the last thing, in the last ditch effort, he just forms that knife or this blade basically and takes a shot, and then obviously gets stabbed with it himself. And it's like, man, it was such a powerful scene. And again, it's one of those that if Robert Downey Jr., if Tony Stark had have gone out at that point, that would have been phenomenal. Obviously what they did do in Endgame ultimately was fantastic, but honestly, if Infinity War, if that was how he was going to meet his end, man, that would have been, and again, Infinity War, if that was to be the last film in the MCU, it would have been a ballsy move, absolutely. Like, Thanos wins, the end, go. It's like, wow. But again, obviously Endgame, I really like Endgame. I know a lot of people are divided on it. I really like it, but you can't beat Infinity War. Not at all. But it really is something special. And then obviously we get the sequence in Wakanda, that wonderful shot of Cap catching the gauntlet and holding it back. And then obviously when we get, again, I can't watch the scene of Liz Olsen and Vision without tearing up again. It shouldn't be you, but it is, And obviously, it's all right. You could never hurt me. I just feel you. It's man. Again, you talk about Oscar nominations. I really think Elizabeth Olsen could have been nominated for that as well. It would have been well deserved. But there's nothing like Infinity War. Even 4 years on, still yet to be bettered, in my opinion. And obviously, we're just around the corner from Multiverse of Madness. That's going to be phenomenal. And again, I really think that's going to be, because I love our good Doctor Stephen Strange. So it's going to be great to see him, and getting to see him with Wanda. It's going to be, because obviously, fair enough, they were both in Infinity War and they were both in Endgame, but never got to interact. So this is going to be the first film where they come together. Well, or maybe go toe to toe, as the case may be. But it's exciting. But that wraps this up. Again, Infinity War. Seeing that the midnight screening was a phenomenal experience. And it's a film it's interesting, because I don't go back and rewatch it a whole lot, because I want it to be special. I might make a point to watch Infinity War again before I see Multiverse of Madness, because obviously looks as though that's the inciting incident in a lot of ways, isn't it? That moment where Wanda makes the sacrifices Vision. That's obviously what sends her down this spiral. But it's a phenomenal film. Again, but yeah, I'm going over the same ground at this point. But thank you for listening to me ramble again. Please feel free to share your thoughts. I appreciate your indulgence, and I'd love to hear your experiences with this movie and your thoughts on it. But thank you for your indulgence. I do appreciate it as always, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.